The Empire Arena in New York was packed to its limit. Tens of thousands of roaring fans filled the arena, waving banners and chanting the names of their favorite wrestling stars. Bright spotlights crisscrossed the ceiling, smoke machines hissed, and the booming sound of drums shook the building as the night's main event came to an end. In the center of the ring stood Brutus Kane, a massive professional wrestler in his early 30s, towering at 6'6" with a body carved out of raw muscle. His skin glistened with sweat, his long hair dripping as he flexed and roared for the crowd. He had just won a scripted wrestling bout, lifting his opponent high above his head before slamming him to the mat with a thunderous crash. The referee counted, the bell rang, and Brutus's arm was raised in victory. The commentators at ringside shouted into their headsets, hyping up his dominance, while the fans either cheered his brute power or booed at his arrogance. The crowd went wild, but Brutus wasn't satisfied. He snatched the microphone from the announcer, breathing heavily, his chest rising and falling like a raging bull. He paced the ring, sweat dripping off his brow, pounding his chest and shouting into the mic, his voice echoing through the arena with raw, animalistic rage. "Ladies and gentlemen. That's how a real man fights. That's what power looks like. Not like those fake Hollywood action stars who pretend to fight on the big screen. You know who I'm talking about. Jason Statham. That bald British actor couldn't last 10 seconds in this ring against me." The crowd gasped, some erupting in laughter, others booing loudly. The camera zoomed in on Brutus's furious face, catching the arrogance in his sneer, the veins bulging in his neck, his chest heaving with pride. The sound system carried his every word across the massive dome, and the air seemed to thicken with tension. He plays tough guys in movies, but here in New York, in front of real fighters, Jason Statham is nothing. A weak little actor who hides behind camera tricks. The boos grew louder now, mixing with cheers from Brutus's loyal fans. Some fans clutched their heads in disbelief, others leaned forward, recording every second on their phones. The atmosphere became electric, alive with a dangerous curiosity. The name Jason Statham was like a spark in a powder keg, it ignited the crowd's emotions instantly. And then, the camera cut to the front row. Jason Statham sat quietly in his seat, wearing a fitted black leather jacket that hugged his athletic frame, his piercing eyes hidden behind dark aviator shades. His expression was unreadable, his posture calm, almost detached, as if none of Brutus's taunts affected him. But the moment the big screen above the ring displayed his face, the arena erupted into chaos. "Jason! Jason! Jason!" The fans began chanting, their voices uniting like thunder rolling across the night sky. Jason remained still, his fingers resting on the armrest of his chair, his lips pressed into a tight line. For a long moment, he didn't react. He simply let the sound wash over him. The chants grew louder, shaking the arena to its very foundation. People stomped their feet, waving their arms, demanding a response. Brutus smirked in the ring, pointing toward him with a mocking laugh. "There he is. Look at him. Sitting there all quiet like a scared little puppy. What's wrong, Hollywood? Afraid to step into the real world? Afraid to face a real man?" The words cut through the crowd like a blade, but Jason didn't flinch. Slowly, deliberately, he removed his sunglasses. His cold blue eyes locked onto Brutus, the kind of stare that could freeze a man in place. For a second, silence fell, as if the entire arena was holding its breath. Then Jason stood. The eruption of sound was deafening. Fans leapt to their feet, banners waving wildly, camera flashes exploding like fireworks. The ground shook as Jason walked toward the ring, each step deliberate, controlled, like a predator approaching prey. His calm demeanor was in stark contrast to the roaring chaos around him. Brutus leaned against the ropes, laughing hysterically. "You want to come in here? You'll regret it, pretty boy." Jason climbed into the ring with quiet confidence, his body language radiating lethal calm. He moved like a trained fighter, balanced and precise. He took the microphone from the announcer's trembling hand, his voice low, steady, and sharp enough to cut through the storm of noise. "You've had your fun, mate. You've had your little performance. But you made one mistake." He stepped closer, so close that Brutus could feel the intensity radiating from him. His voice dropped even lower, the crowd leaning in to hear. "You called me weak." The crowd exploded again, some standing on their chairs, fists pumping in the air. The noise was so loud it rattled the steel beams of the arena. Brutus snarled, his massive arms flexing as he tried to tower over Jason. "You're in my world now, actor. And in my world, you don't survive." The referee tried to intervene, waving his arms, reminding them both that this wasn't part of the scripted show. But the crowd wasn't having it. They were chanting louder and louder. "Fight! Fight! Fight!" Jason didn't take his eyes off Brutus. His lips curled into the faintest of smirks. Then, with a single nod, he turned to the referee. "Ring the bell." The referee hesitated, looking at the officials at ringside, then at the roaring crowd. Finally, he gave in. The bell rang. Brutus charged forward like a bull unleashed from its cage, swinging his massive arm in a brutal clothesline. Jason ducked with lightning precision, his movement so sharp and fast that the crowd gasped. He countered instantly, driving a brutal elbow into Brutus's ribs. The sound was sickening, the giant stumbling back in surprise. Jason followed up without hesitation, snapping a vicious leg kick into Brutus's thigh. The crack echoed through the arena, and the wrestler staggered, pain flashing across his face. "Whoa! That's real," one commentator shouted. "This isn't a movie stunt, folks." Brutus roared, his pride wounded. He lunged again, attempting to wrap his massive arms around Jason in a bear hug, but Jason slipped out with surgical precision. In a blur, Jason's body twisted, his fist whipping around in a spinning back fist that connected flush with Brutus's jaw. The impact shook the big man to his core. The fans lost their minds. Some screamed in disbelief, others chanted Jason's name with primal energy. This wasn't entertainment anymore, this was real combat. Jason pressed his advantage, unleashing a flurry of strikes, rapid punches to the ribs, stomach, and jaw. Each shot landed with bone-cracking accuracy, Brutus stumbling like a tower about to fall. In desperation, Brutus threw a wild haymaker, his fist large enough to knock out most men. But Jason caught his arm mid-swing, twisted it into a brutal lock, and with perfect judo technique, hurled the giant to the mat. The ring shook violently as Brutus's massive frame slammed down. Jason didn't waste a second. He locked Brutus's arm into a submission hold, his grip unyielding, his movements efficient and ruthless. Brutus howled in pain, his face twisted, veins bulging from his forehead. The referee dropped to the mat, shouting, "Do you give up?" Brutus roared, teeth gritted, trying to fight through the agony. But Jason tightened his hold, his expression calm, controlled, merciless. The crowd was chanting louder and louder, "Jason! Jason! Jason!" Finally, Brutus's pride shattered. His hand slapped the mat violently. "I give up." The bell rang furiously. Jason released him and rose to his feet, standing tall in the center of the ring. His chest rose and fell with controlled breaths, while Brutus writhed on the mat, clutching his arm in humiliation. The arena erupted into madness. People jumped, hugged each other, screamed into their phones, recording history in real time. Chants of Jason's name filled the arena like an anthem of triumph. Jason picked up the microphone one last time. His voice was calm, sharp, and unshakable. "Remember this, movies or no movies, I don't pretend. When I fight, it's real." He dropped the mic, turned, and walked out of the ring with the same calm confidence he entered with. The crowd roared louder than ever, shaking the very foundations of the Empire Arena. That night in New York, Jason Statham didn't just silence a wrestler, he reminded the entire world that he was more than an actor. He was a fighter. A real one.